Okay, so welcome everyone. This is This Week in Webseries. I'm very excited today that we've got Jenni Powell with us, and we also have Chris Greenaway. And now, Jenni Powell, if people don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about how you're involved in the web space.
I started in the Lonely Girl 15 community, which is actually how I know Chris, and ended up working on the final season of the show, and then went on to work on the Guild, and then basically any web series I could get on in any capacity.
Right.
And then so I moved from that into the production side, and I'm now a web series producer. I produced Video Game Reunion, was my most current project. I also now work for Brian Allen Events, which is actually an events company, but the events that they do are focused on the web space. So most notably, VidCon is the things that we work on. So I'm head of content for VidCon, and then I'm also helping produce the IAWTV Awards, which are next week.
That is a lot of stuff. Is there like 3 of you? It seems like you're doing so much all the time.
Yes, I'm hiding my clothes. I put them away.
Yeah.
They're in the closet.
Yeah, filled with clones. Now, is there a clone of you, Chris? And does he have fancy glasses like you?
I don't know about that. I sleep very weird hours, so a lot of people might think I'm someone else when I'm out somewhere. They're like, "Aren't you sleeping?"
Right on, right on. And you've you
I
know
stole these glasses from Jonah's actually.
Okay.
Yes. From prom. I remember it well.
So do I. I believe that was one of the first arcs I really watched, where I didn't leave the house and watched every one. And it was like one of the first times I really started. Like, I was a lurker for about half a year before that, but that's when I really started seriously. I really got into it around the time of the campaign. But this is when I really started commenting and started getting involved in the community and being on the websites and on the message boards and in the chats while these things were going on. That's when I really got into it. But yeah,
I actually found one of the campaign posters in my back seat yesterday, because I was cleaning out my car, and I was like, this is still in here.
Which campaign?
The
election or
yes, Salinas.
Yes.
So
okay. I wasn't sure if we were talking about ad campaign or the political campaign from the show.
Political campaign, yeah.
Ah, beauty.
Sorry, geeking out, Travis.
Oh no, that's okay. I'm just listening.
This is our roots.
Well,
This is where we came from.
Well, you guys go way back, right?
Jenni's been around since creation. You and I have been around since Moses.
Ah, okay.
So it's very nostalgic, actually, when you think about it.
Okay, but where did you guys meet?
In the Lonely Girl community.
Okay, which was huge back in the day.
The LG15.com chats, I think, is where we first took notice. Like, that's where I found out about things like Lonely Jew 15 and all the other Lonely Fish and a few of the other LG15 stuff, like Cassie's Watching and some of the other stuff that was going on. Like, my first series was actually direct. I think I made a few references to the show because I was mostly in the community. That's what inspired me to make videos in the first place, was the LG15 thing, and the experience was so great that it really inspired me. And a lot of what I do today still has roots in LG15, and I still think that show is one of the milestones of all time. Whether it's for its time or not makes no difference to me, because it was what inspired me in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're incredibly busy, Jenni, with the IAWTV Awards right now. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing for the awards?
Well, just, I guess, if anybody happens to be watching that doesn't know what the IAWTV Awards are, they are the award show created by the International Academy of Web Television to honor creators in the web space. So we are giving 33 awards at CES in Vegas next week, the 12th. So 1 week and 1 day from right now.
Wow.
We will be in Vegas, hopefully partying.
Excellent.
So because I work for Brian Allen Events, which is the events company that's producing the event, which I brought to the IAWTV because they produced VidCon. So it was really important that we have a producer produce these award shows that understand our space. So I actually wasn't working for them when I brought them to the IAWTV, but then through working with them and on VidCon and really like knowing that they get it and they get our space, they asked me to come work for them, and I was like, yes, wow. I will.
Now, so, for people, sorry to interrupt, but for people who don't know what VidCon is, I know Chris talks about it, but yeah, could you give us a rundown about what that is?
Sure. VidCon was created by Hank Green and John Green, who are the Vlog Brothers on YouTube. Ironically, Vlog Brothers also started through the Lonely Girl community, so we're bringing it all together. And Hank Green saw that there was no convention just for web series or just for like the YouTube community and the online space. So Hank Green, being Hank Green, went, well, if it doesn't exist, I'm going to make it. And so he did. He did the first VidCon. Basically, he called up all the YouTubers he knew and went, hey, do you guys want to get together and meet some of our fans? And rented out some space in a hotel and went, let's see if anyone comes to this thing. And it was, I can't even describe to you the experience of being at the first VidCon, because I actually went because I was writing for TubeFilter at that time, and I came across it because I know Hank, and I said, hey, can I cover this for TubeFilter? And they're like, what's VidCon? I was like, can I just go? Like, I'm just going to check it out. It might be worth covering. And I'll never forget, I walked in the door to go to registration for VidCon, and as I walked up, the guy checking me in said, Jenni Powell? And I was like, wait, I'm getting recognized at this thing? And it turned out it was one of Namholtz. Do you remember Namholtz, Chris? I don't know if you interacted with him, but he was a huge fan of Lonely Jew 15, which was my spin-off series that I did. He recognized me from that. It was, and it had been years, and he was just right out. I was like, this is crazy. And the first thing I attended at the first VidCon was Shane Dawson's panel. And when he walked onto the stage and thousands of girls were just screaming, I literally saw a girl faint, and I went, this is the future. Like, this is where we're going, and I need to be a part of this. And so I immediately contacted Hank and said, if you need me for the next VidCon, I'm here. Let's do this.
There was I remember I watched a lot of the main YouTubers' videos from VidCon at the time it was happening, and I know a lot of us were still in a funk from the streamies of that year and whatnot. So it was kind of like, this was a huge pick me up. I'll always remember watching Charles Trippy and Ali Speed's panel, and the whole crowd started saying the theme, what was then the theme song. And my jaw hit the ground. Like, I'd seen the angry video game nerd get serenaded at some of the conventions he's at. Those were gamer conventions. Right. This was a whole other ball game. It was a completely different environment, and for that to happen, and those two, they just do. It's just a video of their lives. There's no train wreck. It's just there, and for it to strike that much of a chord with people really touched me. I knew that was something that, we got to adapt to this, because this is real. This is, and it's happening on a human level. I mean, there's nothing that it's not the Hollywood idea of good. I've always found good to be subjective, but what this does is it touches a nerve with people, and it said to me, you know what, just be human, be real, and you'll find your place. And it was just such a special moment. And I think you saw it right in your face. I saw it on a screen. I mean, but going back to VidCon, I got a question for you. Did the Vlog Brothers have any hand in the previous big get-togethers that existed before VidCon? I remember there were two in particular. The 7707 event, I believe, was in Buffalo. And then there was the 8808 one, which was in Toronto. That one.
I would have to actually ask Hank that question. I have no idea. I know Hank Green, the Blah Brothers have a huge hand in. Well, they created Project for Awesome, which is another YouTube event.
It's a fundraiser for various charities.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Hank Green also created Don't Forget to Be Awesome Records, which represents YouTube-based talent. So basically, and again, this is going back to Hank, and Hank just making things that don't exist. He's a musician himself, and he saw this huge need for all these amazing YouTube artists who were basically putting out their stuff online for free, hoping to get the attention of a record label. And he went, why are we trying to get someone else's attention when we could make our own record label? So he did.
Oh, wow. Awesome with that?
What's that?
Is the Key of Awesome with those guys?
I'm not sure. I think Key of Awesome does their own thing.
Oh, okay. Wasn't sure about
Now that's a great idea. Actually, I work with a young country singer, and she's been putting up her stuff on YouTube. What was the name of the company again?
Don't Forget to Be Awesome Records, or DFTBA.
Okay, cool.
Is there a website independent of YouTube for that?
Yeah, I think it's. I'm gonna check right now. I know there is. Off the top of my head, I can't remember the address. It's probably just DFTBA, but don't forget to be awesome. It's DFTBA.com.
Okay.
Easy enough.
Right on. Hey, now I just saw something with Moviola and the IAWTV Awards. What's going on with that? That sounded really nice.
Happy face.
Yeah. No, that's
so. The membership was basic. Well, they were basically telling me this had to happen. They're like, what about the people who can't make it to CES and want to take advantage of the educational track of panels that we put together for the day before and the day of prior to the show? And I was like, guys, I really want to do this, but we need a sponsor to donate the equipment, because it's just that one of those issues where it's just like, if we have the stuff, then I can say, yes, it's happening. And I'm not the type of person that's going to promise anything unless I 100% know. So Adam, and I'm going to butcher his last name, I think it's Lonis. Please don't hate me if I pronounce that wrong. But this actually all came out of chat, which is why you guys need to come into chat. We get stuff done. Okay. He was like, look, I have this contact at this company that has tons of equipment. Let me just contact them and see if they'll let us use their equipment. And they came back with, what do you need? Whatever we have, you can have it. So they're giving us two full camera, lighting, and sound packages for each of the 2 rooms, so that we can completely shoot and archive every single panel.
Excellent. Wow. Congrats. That's awesome.
Beauty.
And also,
very cool.
Also, there was something in variety, wasn't there, with the IAWTV Awards? Like a little piece?
Yeah, they did coverage today on our award show, and then there's I think it's more focused on tech, a tech award show that's also happening at the Venetian at the same time. So they did some coverage for us, and they've been great through this entire process. We have more plans on doing more pieces with them as we go forward. So.
Excellent. That's cool. I thought it was pretty snazzy. So you said what? It's a 9 days? Is that right? Is it when the awards are? Is it 9?
8 days.
8 days. 8 days. Okay.
Not 10. I don't know. I wish I had 10 days. This is how many days I wish I had. This is how many I actually have.
Right. And you guys are like still writing the show? Is that your meeting every day?
We actually started yesterday. Was our first big writers meeting with the team. Our head writer, his name is Paul Jury. He's the funniest man known on this earth. We basically sorry, this is my brain. It's going about minutes. So he came on board. He'll be helping us script the entire show. He will be on site, doing any last minute tweaks we need. He's our go-to guy. He's going to make sure the show is scripted in a fun yet uplifting and inspirational way.
Cool, cool. And of course, it's going to be streamed live, right?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Live streamed on our IAWTV org YouTube account. We've been working with YouTube. We got our page upgraded to basically house the live streaming in the best way possible.
Mm-hmm.
Philip, my brain. Hold on. Can you edit stuff? No,
oh yeah.
I just want to get people's names right.
Sure. Yeah. And Chris, oh yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
So Philip Nelson from New Tech, who basically they're a company that provides TriCasters for live stream.
Yep.
Yeah.
They've been around a long time.
Bringing a TriCaster and running it himself, like donating his time to make sure the live stream is. Actually, they're testing the live stream at 4:00 today. So
okay, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, the TriCasters used on Leo Laporte's show, I think. Yeah, this week in tech
and Streaming Garage uses the TriCaster.
Oh, okay.
So all their shows are done through the TriCaster. So
and even Tech News Today, I think, that uses it as well. And were they nominated for an award? Yeah, no, I listen to that show Monday through Friday. It's a great show. But yeah, hey, now Chris, you've got some news. You've got news too. What's going on with Venus Bar? You're moving on to something else?
Well, Venus Bar is continuing.
Okay, good.
The first episode of the new year will be sometime tomorrow. I'm not sure when because the newer episodes are much more technically advanced, so everything's taking a little bit longer than usual. But so we're continuing the season. Season 4 up in the air. We don't know what we're going to do with it yet because I haven't actually gotten into that mode where I've got to sit down and put it together yet. So it's kind of like I just want people to see this one first, and then I'll get going on the next one. But meanwhile, I'm working on some stuff. Like I'm working on a Super Bowl video. Gotta wait till some teams get eliminated, other than my Raiders.
Oh, are they out now? They're out. The Raiders are out. No.
All they had to do was beat the Chargers.
I'm from San Diego, so
all they had to do was beat the Chargers, and they were in. Tebow lost again. Apparently God loves Tebow, so Raiders had to lose. Tebow, it's all about Tim Tebow. He's Chuck Norris, and he's he can, if he wants to, he could bring down planes with his fists, and he can, he can. If he wants a moonlit night with his girlfriend, he can literally take his hand out and take the sun down and grab the moon and put it up in its place if he wants to. That's how people talk about Tim Tebow, and he got beat again, and we still couldn't get in the playoffs. But Tim Tebow will now be there, so we got to wait a while until a few other teams get knocked out before we can write the Super Bowl video.
You should do a football web series, Chris. Seems you
too many people. How many people you got to have on it to make a football team, right? That's a tall order just to get that many people. So that's why I've always avoided sports shows. Like I can have sports references and have sports fans, but I can't really. But organizing an actual event is like organizing a really intricate action sequence.
Okay.
So it's one of those things where I'm like, I like to do things quick. I like to do things on the spot, and that's usually not the easiest thing in the world. But eventually I might. I've always thought about something like a roller derby show would be cool, or something like that.
That would be awesome.
That would be fun. But I've just never really come up with a story I'm satisfied with for that yet. Eventually I will.
Cool. Let's go back to the IAWTV awards. I know Jenny on our last show with Matt. You said Chris had brought up some issues with the awards, and you wanted to address them. You said, "Hey, I knew how to answer that."
Okay.
Is there anything?
Oh boy!
Well, should watch that episode first, then they'll see.
I know. I was just gonna say. I was like, "Oh, I need to go back and watch the whole thing." I'm trying to remember the specifics of.
We need reviews, so go ahead.
What?
Oh, we need views.
Views. Go for it.
Yeah. But yeah, was there anything in particular that you wanted to address, or Chris? What are your main beefs?
Yeah,
we'll put the pressure on Chris.
Pick my brain.
My big one was that there was so many things that like the international in our name didn't seem to be all that well represented. That was my biggest one.
Yeah, and I felt that way too in watching it, and this stemmed all the way back, not just in what ended up getting nominated, but in the submission process itself. We just didn't get a lot of international shows submitting to begin with, and then on top of that then, you know, snowballed down into how the actual nominations worked out.
Forget a lot. There were some big ones that got ignored too from Canada that did submit.
That's true. I'm not gonna doubt that.
I got snubbed. I was like, huh?
What's that?
When Outwood Dad got shut out, I was like, huh?
Yeah. I mean, the problem is like there's, and a lot of us members feel this way, is that there's so many different levels to us being a part of the IAWTV. Is like, especially for someone like me, there's like the fan me that's just like loves these shows. Then there's the creator me that's like actually produced these shows. And then there's the IWTV me, which is I am an officer in this organization, and as a leader, I just want to stay neutral. So it's always so hard because, I mean, I had shows in there that I was just like, no, that's my most favorite show of all time. Like, Oh Inverted World, that is one of my favorite web series of all time. And I know like 10 people saw it. And it's just like breaks my heart because I'm just like, it's shot in black and white, damn it, and it's so good.
I felt that way about My Brain's Darling.
Yeah.
I felt, I don't know if that concept was commercial, but it was a true original.
Yeah.
Literally, nobody else in the space does what Mary does. It is so it's completely original, and that's kind of my feeling. Is like it's one of those things that and when it comes to awards, that one you'd think would be up there just because it's no one else is doing it.
Yeah.
It stands out.
And again, it just all comes down to every award show that has a nominating and voting body is subject to it's completely subjective, and it's groupthink. It's if this is what the group as a whole is pushing towards, I guess we have to support that.
That's my bone of contention. That's my thing, is that if it's one specific little cluster of people, and that does get to me, and I think that's why a lot of us aren't really big fans of how things have been going. Right. Is because it just seems to be centric to LA/New York, and the rest of us are kind of like, well, we're on the outside. People, sometimes pass on the head and say good job, but when it comes right down to it, we're still not there.
I mean, we're still not there. I'm going to say it right up front. I think everyone that's in a leadership role in the organization does understand that from a very basic level. It's just you have this double-edged sword of, we know we want it to change. How do we change it without those people coming in? So it's this dance of, okay, how do we get those people excited to come join us and then keep them here? So
really what it comes down to, for me anyway, in my opinion, is that there needs to be an incentive for us to be there other than just getting to be part of a Facebook group. And that we've been saying that for a long time.
Fun.
It is and it isn't, but you get what I mean, though. Like,
I do.
The thing is, like, when you keep hearing, mixers are free to people that are members, and I'm like, well, it's going to cost me $1,000 to fly down there, so it's not going to be free.
Right. So, and I mean, that's why things like having this partnership with Moviola, and the fact that they are providing something that can affect the entire membership, because what they're bringing us is the opportunity to share this vital information to anyone, anywhere.
Mm-hmm. So this isn't going to be closed. This isn't just going to be available at like the workshops. This is going to be something everybody can just click on.
Yeah, well, basically, and this is how I plan to do it. Is we have the capabilities to shoot every panel. I want to take each panel, separate it out into, so basically you go to our YouTube page and you're like, hey, I'd like to see a panel on audience building, and you can go straight to that panel. And so that way you're getting the information that you want. So yeah, so we want to archive all of them on our YouTube channel, which YouTube totally wants us to do, because I mean YouTube has one of the panels they're doing. And yeah, that's the plan. In a nutshell.
For you, based on that, this is out of left field. I just came up with this. When you talk about partnering with YouTube, how will other creators involved in the Academy benefit? What is there any other ways in which we're able to, how will that affect just us individually? And
we have. Oh, that's not out of left field. That's like a very important, vital question. And we actually have a sit down with YouTube at CES where basically the heads of YouTube and the heads of the current heads of IAWTV were coming together to discuss that, to discuss how we want to take this partnership with YouTube going forward, because they've been a huge asset to getting the award show off the ground. They came right in, they're like, what do you need? Whenever when we were struggling with how are we going to do the live stream, they immediately went, how about we help you with that? So it's an ongoing conversation, and again, just back to that whole belief I have of not putting the cart before the horse and making promises before I know the information. Just know that at CES, those conversations are happening, and in 2012, we're definitely going to have a stronger and more long-term relationship with YouTube.
Okay, well, here's something I want to bring up going into that. Then is that because I know based on who's on the board, there's a few agents and admin involved.
I'm getting a pen and a notepad because I'm going to take notes.
Well, go for it. That works for me.
There you go, Chris.
I'll wait a second.
And I'm going to put on my Adventure Time hat while I'm at it.
Cool.
There, I did that so Jenny wouldn't see my eyes. I took the shades off while she was gone.
There you go.
Okay.
Write notes and wearing a toque or a hat.
I'm ready.
Is that on the right way? Because doesn't that hat have eyes? Oh, I thought I'd seen that on one of your Facebook pictures before.
These are the Adventure Time hats that they were giving out at Comic-Con.
Oh,
and
okay.
Actually, I didn't get one, and like all Comic-Con, I was like, I want an Adventure Time hat. My sister tracked one down and gave it to me for Christmas because she's the best sister ever.
Okay, cool.
So, okay,
right.
I'm ready.
Okay, shoot,
now,
Chris.
I know that a lot of there's a few members on the board who are ad people first and foremost, and are agents first and foremost, and of course they have their own clients and whatnot. But what I would like to see, if anything is done for the membership, is something that benefits everybody, and not just certain people on the board's clients. That's a big one, because that's one of the things us on the outside have to deal with. Is like, as long as if you're gonna be representing me, you better do something that benefits me and Travis and Lou and everybody else, not just your short list of people that are that you're employed by or you're employing. That's a big one. As long as whatever you come up with is inclusive and is membership wide, then I'm cool with it.
Okay.
That's basically what I had.
Cool. Now the only beef I have is I am not big on the geo-blocking shows being in the awards, because it's an international award ceremony, and I just don't feel that if a show that can only be seen in one country should be allowed in to an international award. That's my one big beef.
Yeah.
I wanted to say something on that one, because I know because I went over all the list before we sat down here for the nominees, and I did notice that a number of GeoBlock shows did get ignored. The biggest one being League of Extraordinary Dancers was completely shut out. I thought that one was going to be the new Bannon. It was going to sweep everything, but it didn't get anything.
Right.
So I was very surprised by that. But I'm definitely with you, Travis, on things like geo-blocking, because I've never had any use for it at all.
Yeah.
Because I know as an outside, sort of a bit of an outsider looking in, it's just international members are going to be put off by that, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like I understand that those web series think it's in their financial interest to be geo-blocked, but if they want to do that, that takes them out of the running for the IAWTV awards because it's an international award ceremony.
I hear you, Travis. There's an anecdote here, and is when it comes to why are we penalizing people? Well, I'll remember something Michael Moore did, and this cost him an Oscar. Was during when he put out Fahrenheit 9/11, and he tried to sway the 2004 election. Then he tried to put it on television right on the eve of the election, hoping it would end George W. Bush's reign as president, and it didn't. But what that did was cause the Academy to say, "Sorry, you put it on television before nominations, so you're not eligible." So our rule, they're like even the biggest Academy of them all has rules that even a guy like Michael Moore, with all his money and all his clout and all his notoriety, could not get nominated. Now he had won Oscars before, so I don't know if any skin off his nose, or else he wouldn't have done it. But he knew there were risks, and in that case, when he did that, that was the risk, and he had to live with that one way or the other, whether it was positive or negative.
Yeah.
So that's my feeling on the argument of do we want to penalize people that make this great material just because they geo-block? Well, the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences does it.
So, Jenny, what are your thoughts on geo-block shows?
I know. It's so hard. And this actually, sometimes this trait in me gets me in a lot of trouble because I do it so much that I kind of get stalemated. I stalemate myself, but I always try to look at both sides. Like, okay, I understand the frustration of people who can't get access to content, and I understand that on just at a basic level, people should have access to content. It's like a human right. But from a creator standpoint, I also understand it is my content. I should be able to deliver it the way I see most fit and what will most benefit me in the long run. So I feel like just from a creator standpoint, one example of when geo-blocking really ended up working for somebody that always kind of resonated with me was the example of Valemont, which was created by Brett Friedman and Electric Farm. Valemont, when MTV decided to do Valemont, for those who aren't familiar with Valemont, it was like Harry Potter meets Twilight, where vampires aren't created, they're born vampires, but then at a certain age they start to turn. So there's this university called Valemont that guides you through your process as you're becoming a vampire, and they have different houses and kind of like Harry Potter. And so in the structuring of it had a really good opportunity for an ARG, which was created around before the show started airing. And so basically what happened is that this big community grew up around the show before it even started airing. And MTV, when they originally did the show, only bought the US rights to the show because it was an experiment. It was because they would show the actual episodes of the show in between the commercial breaks of, I think it was The Hills and one of their other big reality shows at that time. Okay. So basically you'd watch The Hills, and then during the commercial break you'd get the first episode of Valemont, and then you could go online to get bonus footage and additional content. And you could get stuff on your mobile phone if you had the phone that, of course, the one, I forget which cell phone company it was, but one of the brands that was sponsoring the show was this cell phone company. And what was different about this is they showed the first batch of episodes on TV and then it went online, and you could only watch the end of it if you went online, which was interesting. I'd always seen it like the other way, not TV pushing to the web. Mm-hmm. But as far as the geo-blocking portion of it is the fact that since MTV had only bought the US rights, when it became a huge success, they went, oh crap, we want to show this in other countries. And MTV actually had to then pay for the show again. So it was it wasn't, Brent hadn't originally geo-blocked the show for that reason, but found out that it ended up working because he actually made more money on the show that he hadn't originally intended on. So,
right.
If I remember correctly, that's how it went. It's been a couple years since Valemont. So, but there was definitely when it was described to me in that way, I went, oh, well, that doesn't sound malicious and horrible. And in fact, so that's why the issue is hard for me. I'm like, okay, I conceptually see how that could work for somebody.
I do see it.
That's the only instance where it actually made financial sense, though, in the entire history of the space. The vast majority of the geo-blocking situations have been content exchanges where money didn't actually change hands. Most notably, the whole thing with Prom Queen, which I think was the single stupidest example of geo-blocking and completely not just cutting your nose off to spite your face, but cutting off your nose, your eyeballs, your tongue, your ears, and your limbs to spite a pimple. I mean, that's really what they ended up doing with Prom Queen, and I don't, that created them. It really did. I didn't bother watching. It went from being one of the Lonely Girl 15 of its time to being who? In record time, and that's usually what I look at when I see things like GeoBlock. I'm like, you know what, you just cratered yourself, man. The
way I see it is, yeah, it can benefit a show financially, but let's say for instance, Spell Fury, I just play that in Canada, and then I put it into the awards, and then Chris and I go. He's got an international show, and Chris and I go head to head in the awards. For costumes, let's say, and then he can't even see my show. That's in contention. Like the world can't even see my show. Only people in Canada can see it. Then I win the award, and Chris has had his show international the whole year. I just don't think it's fair to Chris, even though I am making money. I think if you go geo-blocking, I think as the award should make a stand and say, we're an international award ceremony, and this is, I know it makes sense individually, but as a collective whole, as the IAWTV, I think they should make a stand.
That's why I go back to Michael Moore. And then when I say that with the Oscars, is that the Oscars have a specific set of rules. Michael Moore knew that, and he sacrificed an Oscar for what he felt was his political principles, which I'm okay with. But you know what? He signed up for that, and I don't think he's all that bitter about it. He's probably more bitter about how the election results went down than anything with the Academy. Right. But what I'm saying, though, is that there are rules in place for that, and even though Michael Moore was a big name, we probably would have brought more viewers to the show by being there, because people would have wanted to see what he had to say this time. But they went by their rules rather than bend them for a specific person. Right.
Okay. So what I'm seeing here is a definite need for further discussion, and I think the bigger issue, as opposed to just the geo-blocking issue itself, is this underlying concern that there should be a set of rules in place for the award show. I mean, as of this year, the only requirement was you had to have shown, I think it was just one episode within a time period that we set, and the reasoning for the time period was because people commented, oh, there are shows that are nominated that are over a year old. we had actually, and this was so long ago, I can't even remember in which questionnaire it was, but we'd actually sent a questionnaire out to the membership, and one of the questions within it was, should we extend, instead of just doing because if the show's in January, we could potentially have been like, well, the show's in January, so the cutoff is January to January this calendar year. But what we wanted to accommodate for was that space of time between the last Streamy Awards and what would have been the start of our awards year, and give those shows a chance to be able to participate in an awards show because there's that gap there. So that was the reasoning for why it was that set of time. Going forward, it'll be on a more, now once we set like our precedent for this is when we're going to have our award show, because we do have a deal with CES that if should everything go well, knock on wood, we have a partnership with CES for at least the next, I believe it's 3 years.
Nice.
So we can like set this as like going forward, and then that's what we have to be working for going forward, is solidifying our award show, really bringing it together and cohesive. And I mean, there are things like, we still don't know what to call our trophy. We'd like to organically, as we go forward, see a name that fits, instead of just like being like, this is the Elizabeth.
It's the Jenny. The Jenny.
Oh.
Like I remember the debate we had with Tom Conkle about 10, 20 years from now stuff. I'm like, let the future happen in that regard. That's fine. I'm not going to have any quarrel with that one way or the other, whether I'm involved or not. But one thing I've touched on this last time we did the show, and that was in regards to the nominees, and that was, it's very hard to get buzz for an event when the majority of your nominees are dead shows. Like, it's not a case of whether or not the show is a year old. The Guild's 4 years old in terms of 5 years now. We're in 2012 now. Venus Spa is technically 4 years old, 3.5 years old, but we're still running. We're still running seasons. Like those shows continue. Like, whereas we're talking about shows that are literally DEAD, RIP, dead. And that's, I saw that and I'm like, we'll never get buzz for shows that nobody saw, that that don't exist anymore. It doesn't really help us as an overall organization. Like, I know we're nonprofit, but it's definitely still a brand that's going to be important in terms of brand loyalty over time, the way the Emmys are or the way the Oscars are. And at some point, you got to say to yourself, does it help the brand when we're loading our nominees with our friends, even though they haven't done that show in a couple of years? I mean, that's like, I've seen other awards where shows are several years. I've seen film festivals where some of these movies are several years old and have been in the festival multiple times. And I'm like, I lost interest after that. I just was like, why am I? Because you guys, is it just that you guys are all just best friends, so you just keep rerunning stuff? That's how I felt when I've seen some of these festivals out there. I'm not going to name names, but you know what I'm talking about. This stuff exists, and yeah, it just, that kind of irked me. That saw a lot of guys that still talk like they're like what they're doing, it happened just yesterday, even though they haven't really done anything in terms of producing in a long time. And I'm like, why are we honoring, something that's so old that it's not any, the new people wanting to watch this thing aren't going to, it's not going to resonate with new people that aren't familiar with us when they're seeing shows that didn't survive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I could see.
From a brand standpoint.
Yeah, I think it could hurt the web space a bit, I guess, when if you get sucked into a show that just is just sitting there and then it just sort of ends. Like, I think there should be some emphasis on shows that have continued and have been going over the years somehow. But I don't quite see.
I mean, there might even be a space for, because you're right. There are wonderful shows. Like, I'm a huge fan of Night of the Zombie King, and it was only designed to be a 6-episode show. That is it. It was never supposed to go beyond that. And yeah, there could be room for like, you know, best web series miniseries as opposed, because there are differences between a standalone, you know, contained story and then something like The Guild, which is episodic or seasonal and clearly is going on and on and on. I mean, I can't even tell you, it took, I think it was like a 2.5 month process with just doing a categories subcommittee within the IAWTV Awards just to get it to the 33 awards we currently have. Yeah. And through that entire process, we started that process knowing this isn't the 33 that it's always going to be.
Yeah, yeah.
But you have to start somewhere, or you're just going to, like, I mean, we could have given out 3,000 awards.
And again, it's the first year for it, and you guys are building a foundation, and there's always room to grow. No, I totally support the awards. Yeah. But at the same time,
and it's not like I'm trying to like harp on this whole like, well, it's just the first year, so let us get away with whatever. That's really that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying, like, I'm proud of the fact that we started somewhere and that this award show has happened. I mean, at this point, it's a week out. The train has left the station. Yep. This is happening. So, what's most important to me is, are we honoring the web space? Are we honoring our members? And are we building something on a strong foundation? And to make sure it just doesn't collapse in on itself after this first year.
Yeah.
And I think if we keep our eyes on those goals, I think we're doing all right. I hope we are.
Nope. I agree. You guys are doing a good job. It's going to get, I'm sure it's going to be successful. Yeah, you have my support.
And you better bet after next week that I'm switching into feedback mode, and I'm like, okay, guys, tear it apart. What worked? What didn't? Don't tell me I suck, but let's figure out how we can make this so that next year it's better, and the year after that it's better, and the year after that it's better.
Right on. Yeah. Constructive criticism it's great, you know. So, but. Anyways, Chris, unless you...
I think Chris has something to say. He has that look.
I touched on this while you were talking about miniseries. I've been a proponent of this for years, that there should have been something for it, because I recall Dr. Horrible only being a 3-parter.
Yeah.
I never considered that nearly as the same kind of contribution that Lonely Girl 15, which was still current at the time. Technically, they hadn't... I consider something current until they say it's over.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that still will tell you that Bree is alive. So, you know, that one day Jessica Rose is going to get in front of a webcam and everything will be great again. And you know, like, never say never, right? Until someone says never, right? But I felt that, you know, putting those against each other. I remember when Bannon swept at the 2010s. I was like, they did a 3-episode jump, and you're not judging it on that at all. You're judging it on what you saw later, and that's really how that ended up. And it was against other things where the entire series was available compared to 3 episodes. I never understood that. I understand you got to have a minimum, but I think there's got to be another category for things that don't run very long. Because remember, LG-15 was a daily. A lot of people forget that 5 days a week. It was a soap opera, essentially. It was the same kind of schedule. So it's not fair to judge that against something with only 13 episodes. You know, there's like I remember when I talked to Brady DeForest about this back when on the eve of the 2010 streamies. I said, you know, you've got 35 or 38. I can't remember exactly how many the 2010 awards had. You have 30 something categories. I want 60. Because there's certain, like, we have so many subgenres on the web, and that's the thing. I've been saying this for years. I'm not trying to change the movies. I'm not trying to change TV. Let's not try to be like TV. We got to acknowledge what our space has, and our space has many different categories. Like there's a place for Shane Dawson. There's a place for Smosh. You know, there's a place for, you know, musicians. Why do we not have anything for music videos? You know, like that's something that needed to be addressed. Like when I did Venus Gold, that was the closest thing anyone has come to really honoring music videos on YouTube. I mean, that's something I think needs to be covered. I mean,
just music alone. Like, you could do an entire award show for YouTube artists and musicians. the talent base out there is just astronomical and amazing. Yeah. And as far as like doing something where you can represent all the different aspects of our space, I think the Indie Intertube Awards, I think they do a great job. And
they're up there.
Yeah. And they can take their time with it. You know, they can podcast all day. I mean, they could give out 2,000 awards.
Yeah.
You know, and
for the quality of the show, getting people to do the musical interludes with their own material, that would add to the show a lot better than, let's say, some of the stuff they did at the Streamies in 2010. I would have replaced those with things from Key of Awesome alone.
Mm-hmm.
If I was the producer of that show, I would have, since they were going to be on stage anyway during some point of the show. Hey, let's give them something to do and really add value to the show. You know, I mean, I think those things are just part of the fabric, and I feel like if we don't acknowledge them, we're losing something. That's why I hammer on it so hard so often, is because we have I don't watch that many pure, like what the ironclad definition of web series is. Like, I watch lots of different things.
Yeah.
I've got rappers sending me videos constantly. I'm watching those. Like, I'm probably watching at least half an hour a week of nothing but rap videos from new rapper. I don't even really like rap music, but I'll watch them because they send me. You know,
my favorite is George Watsky. Oh my God, oh, yeah. I love George Watsky.
I used to like Kev Blaze, and then he disappeared. He did the Fred song, which I think made Fred. Was seeing Fred dance to this gangsta song. I was like, this is actually. But then then I saw the video. I'm like, this is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, like, there's so much talent out there, and I feel like we're missing it right now. And I think we gotta grab it as well while it's here, because eventually, you know, it's not going to be around for us. So we've got to. I think if we shine a light on it now, you know, I think it will add so much value to what we're trying to talk about when it comes to the best of the web space. You know, YouTube isn't a dirty word as far as I'm concerned, even though I know that it's not even nominated for Best Portal, but everything I've accomplished so far, I owe to YouTube. You know, like Travis, I mean, look at everything we've accomplished. Like, Lonely Girl 15 put YouTube on the map.
Yeah.
I mean, these are things that, like, we've all three of us have experienced why it's a success and why it's the MTV of its time. Yep. And I think that we do ourselves a disservice if we don't include them as much as possible. And that's why I complain about the nominees as much as I have. I've noticed there's very little in terms of the YouTube space that's involved. And no matter what happens with sponsorships and whatnot, I mean, I look at that one part of it, and it's like, which is the big stat that matters at the end of the day, right? Yeah, so it's like I think we do need to honor as much of that as we can.
Yeah, and keyword there being as much as we can. And again, I'm just gonna keep going back to it, but what we can do now and what we can do 5 years from now is very different. Mm-hmm. Like, we can. I am completely confident we can get there. It's just we all just need to keep our eyes on that prize and keep working for it. I mean, just in the last year alone, just like my own personal journey, I mean, between last year and this year, I went from, you know, the first time I applied for the IAWTV, I was denied. Like, I was turned down. And now, almost a year later, I'm an officer on the board. So
that shocks me, actually, that you were turned down at all at any point. I knew people with far shorter resumes that got in on first shot back when it was Who You Know. So that blows me away to actually hear that.
You know, for whatever, all it did is make me want to get in more and make me work harder. And I mean, that's just it's just like I just saw something in this organization that I want to make better, and all I can do is keep doing that and keep reaching out and, you know, taking feedback. And that's why I say, like, day after this show, like, go crazy. I don't care. I'll be online all day. I did it after the Streamy Awards last year, and that's how Celebrate the Web happened. So, I mean, you just have to take these experiences and build off them. Yep. And even if we screw it up, I mean, we could do this show and everybody could hate it. I don't know. Like,
I think one thing I'm going to say going into the show, because I'm going into this with I never had a dog in the fight. I never submitted anything this time around. I had no, and we've discussed this ad nauseum. But the thing I want to that I want to cover is my expectations aren't incredibly high in general, but all I want is this. I don't want any snarkiness towards the web space or the creators, and I don't want to see the roast that happened in 2010. That is all I ask for. I live and breathe in this space. It means the world to me. And the last thing I want is Kevin Pollak acting like a jackass on stage telling us that we're slumming. I don't need that. We as a space don't need that. The things that went on that night were actually put tears in my eyes. It was that bad. And that's all I ask. That's the only thing I want to not happen. Whatever else happens, happens. Just as long as I don't see a big middle finger in my face, I'm happy. That's
you got it, dude.
That's all I got to say on that one.
No finger, just a thumbs up from Jenny.
We'll just project this all day.
Okay, well, on that note, I'm looking forward to the awards. Jenny, I think you're working really hard, and I'm sure it's going to be a success. And it will continue to grow and get stronger and better. And thank you so much for coming on the show.
No problem.
And where can people reach you if they have a question or comment or?
You can reach me at Jenni, it's JENNI, at IAWTV.org.
Okay.
And that goes right to me.
Excellent.
You can also follow me on Twitter at Jenni Powell. Pretty much any social media or Facebook or any of those, it's just under my name, so not too difficult to find.
Okay, right on. And Chris, same thing. Where can people reach you if they have a question or a comment?
For business inquiries and whatnot, my big one is chadmedia2009 at gmail.com. And Watch Venus Spa is my YouTube channel. I'm there all the time. So if people make comments on our videos, we're always there to respond. And on Twitter at Team Venus Spa, all one word. And look for me, Chris Greenaway on Facebook. And it's weird. I got so many different. I don't have the same one for all of them because some of them are business, some of them are show related, some are me. But Chris Greenaway on Facebook. There shouldn't be too hard to find. But
okay.
There's a number of Chris's out there.
Okay.
It's the most common names in the world. But Chris Greenaway on Facebook.
Chris Greenaway on Facebook. And I'm Travis Gordon, so at Travis Gordon on Twitter or on YouTube. My name there is T-Bone Pearson. You can find me there. So thanks again, guys. And I think it was a great show. And I hope to talk to you guys soon.
Excellent.
Bye.
All right. See you later.
See you in Vegas.
Good luck.